Generators, MGs. I was like, what's that on the floor? MGZs. I like that. MGZs. G's and MGZs. All right, for real, y'all. I really hope I do this video justice because there is so much to unpack. Like, I don't think I'm gonna fit it all in one video, okay? And I don't want to put too much pressure on y'all, okay? But let's get into it. We're gonna cover all the ground that we possibly can, man. How to never be frustrated again. Generator plus manifesting generator edition, the master video. Now, even if there are some little things that I forget in this video, I do feel like this video is going to be answering a multitude of major questions you generators have. And just reading through, I haven't even gotten to go through all of your DMs. Y'all really came in and raided my DMs. But I did see a lot of repeating types of things. Like many of you were saying, I'm having problems with committing to things. I'm having problems with starting things. I'm having problems with finishing things, working through fears, all those things. And I was able to find a common pattern for why all of you, or all of us, because I'm also a generator, deal with those problems. And some of them integrate. So I highly recommend watching the video all the way through, because there's a few things that I'll have to explain that intertwine with other things. So you don't want to skip around. You want to really hear it through, because something will resonate with you. And so, yeah, just listen. So I need us all to be open-minded. I need us to really be receptive to learning new things, to unlearning old ways, and just trying not to get frustrated with this learning process, okay? Because there is so much information in human design, I really want you all to focus on learning and enjoying the process. If at any moment you're feeling frustrated with human design, as a generator, you need to stop and just relax for a second, okay? You don't need to learn it all in one day. It's, that's how it can be overwhelming with learning astrology or tarot. You try to learn it so fast, and you have to learn the material first, and then you can start applying it to your life, all right? But before you even do that, you're gonna have to unlearn some things. But let's go in order. I'm going to timestamp everything so we know exactly what we covered, and you can always refer back to the parts that you need to see again. All right, frustration. Frustration is the not self theme of a generator or a manifesting generator. If you are feeling frustrated by any capacity, I wrote down 5 main reasons why you are going to be feeling frustrated or why you experience frustration. I personally do not experience frustration much at all anymore. Maybe in some very subtle ways, but I don't think ever again I'll be experiencing major frustration about anything, because I know what that means and what that looks like as a generator. It means, one of a few things, but mainly you're pushing too hard in some regard and you need to step back. So frustration, like I said, is the not self theme. The signature theme that you want to always strive for as a generator type is satisfaction. And when I say generator, I'm always talking about manifesting generators as well. I'm just not going to say both every single time, because you're both generators, okay? So these are the 5 main reasons why a generator becomes frustrated. 1, you are trying to initiate from the mind instead of out of response. So your strategy is always to respond. Life is always going to bring you things, and then you respond. You respond to life every single day. You respond to choices every single day, right? But trying to initiate out of your mind looks like you just get a random idea or thought, generated by the mind or, from somewhere. And you're like, it just comes to your mind and you're like, okay, I'm going to go do that now. But there was nothing that triggered that response. It didn't come from outside of you. It came from you, and now you're trying to initiate it. Like, for example, if I wake up one day and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I want to start my own workshop. I want to do something, something big, or I want to do that. And then I go out there and try to initiate the steps for it. I'm going to get really frustrated because there was nothing that came into my environment that triggered that response for me to do it. It's just like, oh, I just want to do that. And manifestors are the only ones that can get an idea and then go do it. We have to wait. So it's like, okay, if I want to start a workshop, right? It's out in the universe. I want to do that. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to get up the next day and start trying to initiate steps for that workshop. I am going to wait until I get some type of universal confirmation. It will always show up, I promise. For somebody to either bring that up to me and they're like, hey, you should start a workshop. Boom, that's where I respond. And I'm like, okay, now I can kind of start to figure out how I want to do that. Or, there's some type of confirmation that you get, or you start to see other people that have workshops, and these are your confirmations that you should start to move towards that and in that direction, or somebody, wants to help you follow those steps. So that's what I mean by waiting for the response. You have to wait for the steps to show up before you just go out and do it, because then you're going to feel frustrated because you're having a hard time staying excited about it. You're having a hard time figuring out what to do next. And as a generator, the steps are always going to show up step by step, but you have to wait. Okay, you have to trust that something is going to give you the confirmation of what the next step should be. What is the next step you should take? But you have to wait. Okay, so that's 1. 2, you're pushing too hard for something to happen and getting attached to results and responses. So trying to push and push and push for some type of results, or like if you're not getting any responses for something that you want to do, or you're not getting any signs, and then you just get impatient, and then you're going out there and you're trying to make things happen for yourself. You're trying to push and nothing's happening. You're going to just hit a wall of frustration. Okay. It's like, if you're trying to win the lotto and you're pushing and pushing and pushing to win, you're going to get frustrated because you're not winning, right? So stop pushing so hard and take a couple steps back, getting attached to the results. 3, you are trying to be excited or create excitement for something that does not excite you. As a generator, you should always, always, always strive to do things that excite you. Granted, in our lives, there's always going to be things that we don't want to do, right? Like that we have to do, like our priorities, our chores. We don't want to do that. But, for things that you are trying to make some type of excitement about, like about a job, and you're like, I really hate this job. I am not excited about this job whatsoever. I am not excited about this relationship, this friendship. And you're trying to make that excitement or create it, pull it from somewhere. You're going to just always feel frustrated because you don't like it. You have to be satisfied with whatever it is you're doing, who you're with, who you're around, where you are. The goal is always excitement. If you're pushing to create a feeling that's not there, it's a waste of your time. It is a waste of your time. Okay. 4, responding to unsatisfying things. So things that don't excite you and things that won't satisfy you, like, or you just feel like you should be doing, like you should respond to this text message from this person. You should be going towards this job, and you're just giving your responses to people and things that don't light you up inside, that give you no type of gratification or satisfaction in return. 5th thing kind of ties into the 4th thing. You are ignoring your excitement for things that seem illogical. All right. So as a generator, certain things are not going to make sense. When you're learning how to do things from your body, respond to your body signals, go with what excites you, your feelings, your gut feelings, whatever that is, there's going to be a lot of like weird things that light you up. And your brain, you have to unlearn this. Your brain is going to tell you, that doesn't make sense. Let's take the more safe path. Let's stay with the more logical path. And your body's like, no, I want to go over there and do that weird thing. I want to do that. That's fun. That's exciting for me. And so you have to really learn to follow that path that is less logical, that is less safe, less what it might seem stable to other people and to you. Like with me, with tarot, that was not a logical path for me. Like I had never thought to do that in my life. Like it just happened that way. And I just felt this strong pull, this urge to go explore that. And I could have played it safe and stayed with my little other jobs that I had that were traditional and logical and safe and predictable. But that pull was so strong. I don't know how you guys ignore it. Like when you ignore the excitement that you feel for something, I'm not sure what that feels like, because I've never been the type to ignore what excites me ever. And I guess that's because I have more defined in my chart. I'm very defined. I only have 2 undefined centers. So I kind of always just do what I want. But when you feel that excitement, you just got to go towards it. It didn't make sense to me. I was like, I don't know where I'm going with this tarot thing, but here we go. So you got to kind of just take that leap of faith. As a generator, you have to learn how to do that. Okay, so those are the 5 reasons why you may become frustrated as a generator or a manifesting generator. Now, let's get into this disclaimer real quick, okay? This is probably the most important part of the whole video. Disclaimer: before you learn how to do anything new with your body, with your mind, with yourself as a generator, you need to understand that there are many things that you have to unlearn first. You have to do what is called deconditioning, okay? You unlearn and then you relearn, similar to when you're healing, right? When you're unlearning unhealthy things from trauma. It's the same thing with your design. Many of us were conditioned to operate differently than our design. So now that you realize you're a generator, you realize, okay, I need to always be operating out of response. I need to stop initiating first, not out of response. I need to focus on things that satisfy me. But with all of that comes unconditioning, unlearning ways in which you are a people pleaser, unlearning ways in which you went against what your body wanted for you and you tried to stay in the logical, safe, predictable realm, going against those ways and where you were supposed to be courageous and take a leap of faith, but you decided to ignore your gut feelings. Okay, so these are things you have to unlearn. Unlearning that your mind is not to be trusted, but your body can always be trusted. You can always trust your gut. You cannot always trust your mind. Your mind just is operating from a place of ego. It doesn't really understand what else is going on. Okay. So in your chart, I'll probably post it up here so you can see an example of the chart, so we know what we're looking at here. But the undefined centers, or the white open centers in your chart, those are, the more of those you have, the more you've been conditioned in your life. Those are the places where you experience the most external conditioning from your parents, your friends, your family, people you've met that gave you these projections that you kind of have adopted as your own. So that's where you need to do a lot of deconditioning, okay? So I'm going to briefly go over a couple of the centers that I feel causes the most stress, frustration, anxiety for everybody, but especially for generators in this context here, and why, what that looks like, okay? So let's start with the undefined ego / will center. And I've seen a lot of, when I was talking to you guys, a lot of generators having this issue. So if you have this undefined or open, this is the reason why many of you start things, but you cannot finish them, okay? The ego and will center is responsible for your commitment. When it's undefined, that means that you don't have a consistent willpower. It's like sometimes you have willpower, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can commit to things, sometimes you can't. It's never going to be consistent. So you should never make commitments to things you know you cannot fulfill or you have doubts about, just to please other people. This center is the one that really acts out of obligation and is also conditioned to feel like you should be further ahead in the material world. So there's always a sense of competing. You definitely take on a lot of conditioning about where you think you should be based on where other people are. You're going to compare yourself to other people often, like, why don't I have this? Why don't I have my own, my own house and apartment and all these things? And, it's hard for you to believe that you can have that. It's hard for you to believe consistently that you are worthy, or you're trying to prove something to other people. You're trying to get this sense of acceptance. So you also, with the undefined will and ego center, have a lot of unrealistic expectations that you place upon yourself. And you can also lack the willpower to commit long term to things or promise. So if you have an undefined will center, you want to really shy away from just promising things to people, or, agreeing on the spot, like, yeah, I'm going to come. Yeah, I'm going to show up. Yeah, I'm going to do this. If you know that you're not going to do it, okay? People with defined will, they often, more often than the undefined will say they're going to do things, and they will do it. They are going to do it. But with undefined will, you may not do it. Most times you're not going to do it. So don't promise things that you may not do. Or if you have doubts that you can do it, don't say it to people. You can, of course, try to affirm yourself, but don't set unrealistic expectations for yourself. You have to really start small, and don't commit to things that are not out of response or going against your authority. And we're going to talk more about authority in a little bit. But the question for you with the undefined ego and will center is, am I trying to prove something? Okay, what are you trying to prove? So moving on to the pressure centers, which is the head, which is at the top of the chart, and the root, which is at the very bottom of the chart. So if you have an undefined head, there's always going to be this feeling of pressure to either get things done, or you feel like you don't have enough time in the day to finish what you need to do. This can also apply to the root. But a lot of the times when you have an undefined head, you're going to experience this mental pressure often. You're going to have so much mental pressure to feel like you need to know all the answers. You need to know exactly what you need to do at every given moment of every given day. You're searching and yearning for these answers to questions that are just swirling around in your head. But what you need to know is that most of these questions are not yours, okay? With an undefined, that is where you take in other energy and amplify it. These are a lot of questions other people have that you're just picking up on. They're not questions that you need to be worried about right now. There's a sense of urgency behind trying to figure out things, right? And so when you have an undefined head, you need to really understand where you're putting pressure on yourself to figure out things that are unnecessary at all, or that you don't need to figure out right now. The answer it's not that urgent, okay? You don't need to know exactly what the heck is going on every single moment of your life. Certain things do not need an immediate answer, and you don't always need to have the answers. Another thing that can happen with an undefined head is that you have a lot of ideas, especially if you're a manifesting generator. There's going to be so many ideas swirling around in your head, and you're going to be like, I don't even know. I want to act on all of them. There's too much inspiration, too many ideas. And with an undefined head, you do not need to act upon every single idea. You do not need to answer every single question. You do not need to act upon every single idea or inspiration that comes to you, okay? You check in with your authority to see what is right for you. And we will go over the authority, okay? So bear with me here. I'm just trying to get through the centers so we know what we're talking about. So that's the head. Now the roots, undefined roots. So if you have an undefined root, there is pressure and adrenaline to get things done or to do something, alleviate that stress. And a lot of times this stress is being taken in from other people. So you need to give yourself extra space to calm down and release the extra stress you're picking up from others. Realize what is your urgency versus what is the urgency of other people. Other people's emergencies are not your emergencies, okay? So you have to really unlearn this and unlearn, where have I been trying so hard to alleviate this stress, this pressure that I'm feeling to get everything done in a day? Where have I picked up a lot of stress along the way from others? Do you need to do this right now? Like that anxiety feeling like, oh my gosh, if I don't get this done, something bad's gonna happen to me, or like I need to do all XYZ right now, or it means whatever, So am I putting the stress on myself? Or is it somebody else putting the stress on you, trying to, or you're picking it up from listening to other people talk about their stress or their problems, and you're like, man, I got to do that too. Like, no. Do you really need to do that right now? Is there something you need to be doing every minute of every day to alleviate this stress? Like, it's time to practice some yoga instead, okay? And then the last one we're going to go over with the undefined center that can really take a toll on generators is the undefined spleen. This is the one I have. I have undefined heart, ego, and undefined spleen. So I had a lot of conditioning in these areas of my life, and this is where I needed to, and I'm still doing some deconditioning of projections that other people have around me. So with the spleen, that's all about your instincts and your fears. So you have been greatly conditioned by other people's fears, other people's doubts, other people's worries and anxieties. So you need to know that not all of your fears that you have in your mind are yours. They're probably from your friends. They're probably from things you see on social media, other people day to day, what they're worried about, that you have accepted and ingrained in you and adopted as your own. But the good thing is with undefined centers is you can release it. It's not yours. It will never stay. It won't stick. All right. You also may have been conditioned to live in survival mode. So always feeling like there's this sense of urgency where you're always needing to, be prepared for the worst at any given moment. It's just like this feeling of living on edge, always living in this sense of ready to fight at any given time. But you want to really ask yourself, is someone else projecting fears onto me? You need to stay away from fear-driven people who always talk about negative stuff, who always talk about why you should be afraid. Like, those people that just instill fear in you, like, are you sure you want to do that? Because, this could happen, XYZ can happen. And if you have an undefined spleen, you're going to adopt that mindset. When you're around them, you're going to be like, wow, well, what if it does go wrong? What if I can't do this? What if I do need to be prepared for this, the worst? What if this is dangerous for me? So it's all those, like, if you tend to be around those people, that environment is going to be terrible for you. You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to feel very frustrated because you're always afraid, because you're around people that are always afraid. That's just how it is. Get away from the scary people, okay? Another thing is you could be very attached to timing because the spleen deals with time in our lives. So either you feel like you always need to be racing against time, or you feel like you're always running out of time, that you're always on a time crunch. You're very attached to the timing of things. You could be obsessed with deadlines. Like you're very obsessed with, I need to get this done by this time, or I'm a failure. I need to do this by this time. I need to time. Like I'm running out of time, so learning to slow down and just stay in the moment as much as you possibly can. And also not be obsessed with other people's timelines of when they do things, because you are on your own. Everybody's on their own timeline. Okay. Woo. So let's let that sink in for a second. Now we're going to, I'm trying to think what is most important to talk about right here, because I want to make sure this video is not like super duper lengthy. So I'm going to try to I think we'll be okay. As long as we don't go over 35 minutes, I think we're good. So generators and MGs, let's get into some things that you need to know about your type now. So one, especially manifesting generators, you do not need to act upon every single idea or inspiration you have, especially if you have an undefined head. Okay, you need to, okay. So especially manifesting generators, you guys tend to definitely be the ones who are like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that. And you should not be confined to any just one thing. But if you have undefined head, like I mentioned, you're going to get a lot of inspiration. You're going to get a lot of downloads, but you don't need to act upon every single one that you get. And that's why I'm going to go over authority. You're going to check in with your authority and see which ones are right for you. Okay. Two, when an idea comes to mind, wait for the response before initiating or informing. So this is for informing, I'm talking to manifesting generators, because you have that manifestor sprinkle there. So you need to also inform. So like I said earlier, how I was giving the example of like initiation is just doing it from the mind with there's no outside response, no outside confirmation. That's what you should do. So when you get an idea, instead of just going after the idea, wait for something to show up that gives you that confirmation, or, you know, somebody to give you the confirmation or something, you know, some type of sign, a clue that's going to come your way. And then if you are a manifesting generator, if you're going to inform, because you should still be informing people about like what your next step is going to be, you have to also inform out of response. So when you get an idea to inform, or you're thinking about informing somebody of something, it has to be in response. It can't just be like you get the idea to inform and you go do it. You have to wait. Okay, so there's two things you got to wait for, manifesting generator, in response. And I can definitely, after this video, if you guys have more questions, there's going to be certain things that we can pull from this video that I will go deeper into, because this was a lot of information for the first video. So I will break it up in the next ones. Okay, 3, manifesting generators. Stop trying to fit yourself into a rigid routine. I see a lot of you guys getting stressed out about your routines, and you're like, I have a very weird routine, or it's very flexible, unpredictable. Don't get stressed and obsessive about that. Okay, do what works for you and inform others of what you're doing. You will start a lot, but you won't always finish. So, you know, manifesting generators do get a little bit stressed because you tend to start things and you don't always go back to them, or you go back later on, you don't finish. That's okay. That's what manifesting generators are supposed to do. You're supposed to come here, try different things out of response. I think the more you learn how to operate out of response, not just operate, say, oh, that's cool, I just want to do it and out to see if I can do it, then you won't start as many things and not finish them. But if you're doing it out of response, and you're excited by it, and then you follow your authority, then you'll get a lot more done. Okay, next thing. Manifesting generators, you can do as much as you want, but you need to wait for something to respond to that will show you exactly what you're supposed to act upon. Okay, so we kind of already touched on that, so I'm not gonna, you know, reiterate. It's kind of redundant. And then the last two, this last one is for MG, and then the very last one is for both types. both generator types. Manifesting generators experience some anger, like manifestors, from others. Wait, what did I say? Manifesting generators experience anger from others like manifestors do. You move the fastest out of all the types, so people may not understand what you're doing and create resistance for you. Inform them out of response. So yeah, you may find that people are very angry at you or upset because you do things very quickly and you don't say anything, or you kind of move in certain ways, and people get upset with you. Right? So this is where you practice the strategy of informing. You're supposed to inform also, like I said, because you have that manifestor part. So in order not to step on anybody's toes, let them know what you're about to do, or you maybe keep them posted on like how you feel in certain circumstances. Ow, excuse me. There was something stuck in my throat. But informing people, it won't like fully remove people's opinions or, you know, people's input about what you're doing, but it will help you to create less resistance when you're trying to get things done. You may experience the anger that manifestors have when they are trying to do something and people are in their way. So that's where the informing part comes in. And I'll make a whole separate video on manifesting generators with informing, because I think that's a whole subject in itself. And then the last thing for generators, stop doing what you think you should be doing and do what feels most natural and satisfying. This is a big part of unconditioning, guys. You need to stop doing what you think you should be doing, what everybody else is doing, what your parents think you should be doing, what your friends think you should be doing. Do what you want to do. That's going to be the life-changing thing for a generator type. You're here to satisfy yourself, and you cannot do that by listening to what other people find satisfying for you. Okay. So these are going to be the last two that we have for this video, and I'm going to wrap it up here. And I will most likely make a part 2 for this specific video because it's getting long and I don't want to overload you for the first video because I still have a lot of notes left. But yeah, I think we've covered a lot. So checking in with your authority. Your authority is extremely important for making decisions. This is where you're going to make the decisions. Once you get the response, it's like, okay, now what do I do? Authority. Always go back to your authority. So let's talk about the difference between the two authorities generators can have, which is emotional and sacral. They are complete opposites, okay? But for, in a nutshell, with emotional authority, always commit too fast to things. Sacral authority takes too long to commit. Procrastinates. These are the two generator types. Sacral authority, you're going to hear a lot talk about, I procrastinate a lot. And then emotional authority, you're going to hear a lot say, I have a problem with commitment. Like I may go into things prematurely and then I change my mind. See, it's different. So emotional authority, never commit to anything on the spot. Don't do it. Do not do it. You hear me? Don't do it. Okay, so anybody asks you any type of question, you want to really learn the art of saying, let me check my schedule. I'll get back to you on that. Can I have a day to think about it? Okay? It's always going to bring you so much relief. It takes off that stress of having to decide something. Most decisions, you don't need to say yes on the spot. Okay, of course, there's going to be some that are a little bit more like time constrained, or you have like a deadline. But most times, if somebody's just like, hey, do you want to go to this event with me? It could be simple as that. And of course, if you're emotional authority, you might be excited at first and you say yes. No, don't say yes. Not yet. Okay. Some things you need a little bit more time. Some things you need less time. But you need to give yourself some time, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 days. Do not commit when you are extremely excited. Okay, so if somebody first asks you something, you need to ride an emotional wave. You need to go through the pros and the cons. And then when you reach a state of emotionally neutral, if you're still feeling pretty good about it, which will be about 70 to 80%, emotional authority is never 100% sure, you can say yes then. For bigger commitments, you need to give yourself more time, like, relationships, for jobs, for moves, for offers that you receive. You never want to just say yes on the spot, because then, especially if you have a undefined ego or heart center, like I mentioned, you tend to overcommit to things to prove something or out of people pleasing that you actually don't want to do. So definitely, if you have emotional authority and you have undefined, you need to really stop saying yes to everything. You need to take your time, let the emotions fluctuate, and then you can say yes. Or you can say no, depending on what it is. You don't want to make a decision from a low emotional place when you're very sad or down, depressed, angry, whatever it is. Okay? So emotional authority, you are more likely to talk yourself into things prematurely without giving yourself enough time. So if you want to save yourself the trouble, you want to save yourself the mental stress of being like, why did I say yes? I don't even want to do this. Then you need to get in the habit of saying, I'll get back to you on that. I'm not sure yet. I can't give you a definite answer just yet. Let me think about it. You need to start saying it. I promise you, it's changed my life for the better. I don't feel pressured into any decision ever again. Never. I haven't. Ever since I learned that, I never decide anything on the spot. As long as I'm pretty certain about it after some days, or I feel emotionally neutral about it, I go for it. But if I'm still like, that's probably just a no, okay? Or a not right now. All right, sacral authority, let's get on you for a second. Sacral authority, you need to start asking yourself, does this excite me? I think sacral authority really struggles with making decisions a lot because they have to learn how to get out of their head, get into your body, get into your excitement, get into your passion. Every decision that you make should be from a place of, does this excite me, and do I have energy to fulfill whatever this obligation is of me? Okay, where are you saying yes to things that you absolutely do not have the energetic capacity to do? Okay, so with sacral authority, needing to learn like that urge that you might have to speak up and say something that excites you, or that urge to, that pull to go somewhere. And those feelings that you ignore, a lot of sacral authority learns to ignore those gut feelings, and then you go with your mind, the opposite, that's saying, oh, don't do that, you're gonna look stupid. Oh, don't say that, that's gonna make you look XYZ, you know? So when you feel that urge to speak up or do something, just do it. You have to learn to just do it. Instead of procrastinating, for sacral authority, you have to learn Nike, wear more Nike, and just do it, okay? Because sacral authority tends to procrastinate a lot because you let that exciting feeling pass, because excitement is an emotion. It's going to pass. If you don't act on it, it will pass. You have to learn to act when you feel it. It'll pass, and then it'll be filled with doubt and fear and anxiety and shame and guilt and whatever it is. So instead of, like, emotional authority is more likely to talk themselves into things, sacral authority is more likely to talk themselves out of things and take too long to make a decision. Listen to that yes before the doubt sets in. Listen to the, oh, I want to say this. Oh, I want to do this, before you start to wait and wait and wait and be like, I'm scared, you know? So start getting in the habit, sacral authority, of doing things when you feel the urge to do it, when you feel that pull, when you feel that, oh my gosh, yes, oh my gosh, I really want to say this so bad, but you hold back. Look at where you're holding yourself back, where you've been conditioned to hold back because you feel like you're going to look dumb. You feel like you're going to say the wrong thing. You feel, you have to decondition and learn to get into your body. Listen to those feelings. Don't listen to your mind in the way that's trying to talk you out of it. Unless it's a situation that's bad for you, of course. But you know what I mean. Those situations where something could be good for you, but you wait too long and you let the happiness and excitement pass, and then it's just like, well, my moment's gone, So that's what we got here for you guys. We're at 37 minutes. I think the last thing I kind of want to touch on just a little bit is, you did all that, you're learning all that. When you're excited but you're not getting responses, or you're trying to force responses, this can mean that you're also in the wrong environment, or you're on the wrong platform. So if you feel like nothing is coming to you to respond to, or you're in that waiting period that all generators face, where you're waiting for something to respond to or light you up, you're probably in the wrong environment. You probably need to go somewhere new. You probably need to surround yourself with new energy, new people, new thoughts, new ideas, whether that's changing homes, changing states, changing schools, changing routines, changing where you go for coffee, changing something. You need to change an environment, or the people that you're around, or the platform that you are trying to get responses from. I'm shifting currently my responses from Twitter to Instagram. It's not the same. So I'm moving. I'm changing my environment. So that's what you need to try to do too, generator. So, man, this was a master action-packed generator content video. Take some time, generators. Cool down, cool down. I would love to see your comments, your questions, what you want to see next from generators, what you want me to expand on more from this specific video, because I know it was a lot of content and information, and there's a lot to unpack and unlearn before we relearn. But again, check the timestamps for everything you want to know, the different sections, so you can focus on it. And yeah, let me know how this was for you guys. Man, y'all took all my energy. I'm done. Generator out. Generator down. I used all my energy for this video, so thank you guys. I am at Tarot by Bronx.